Hello and a very warm welcome to No One Gets Out of Here Alive. My name is Holly Lyon-Hawk and I will be taking you on a gentle, sometimes humorous and sometimes challenging meander through the myths, beliefs and ideas around all things end of and after life. Each week you will get to hear what various people's random thoughts are on the big question: what is the meaning of life? If you would like to share your thoughts, please send your voice clips in to me via WhatsApp and I'll do my very best to include them. Also each week there will be a section called Give the Flowers Now, which was inspired by my darling maternal grandfather, Roderick George Balcombe, who would say, don't leave it until the funeral to send flowers. Send people flowers now, telling them what they mean to you and how they have touched your lives. And I would love to hear from you. So if you have some flowers that you would like to send someone, please send me your voice clip telling me who it is and how they have touched your lives, along with your name, email address, and the name and home address of the person you are sending your flowers to. For each person who is featured, I will send some beautiful flowers to that person on your behalf. In this series of podcasts, I will be chatting with a whole range of guests, from sound artists, willow weavers, through to end-of-life doulas, and people who have had near-death experiences to help give you a more holistic, rounded view. It just may be a few new possibilities of how the inevitable can be approached, because remember, no one, not even you, gets out of here alive. Hello and a very warm welcome. Today I am delighted to have with me Patsy Freeman, author and grief counsellor. Patsy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to have you on. I've been busy reading your book. So your book is called In Search of You. A beautifully written, heart-wrenching book. So for those who haven't read it yet, I would really love to learn a little bit more about it, and the journey, really, your relationship with grief, and how you came to actually write the book.
Well, thank you for your welcome, and it's lovely to be here. Grief actually is my favourite topic, so I'm always happy to talk about it. The book, I wasn't planning on writing one at all, but I found, and I have over the years found, that it's a very instinctive response when there's something that I need to kind of offload and get off my chest. So it is literally releasing something from the body and putting it on the page. So when my daughter Jasmine was diagnosed with breast cancer, I began writing letters, some of them to her directly, just to tell her how I was feeling. And it went on from there.
And so what encouraged you to actually turn these letters into a book? Because it's an incredibly intimate journey, isn't it? That you've created there, with that you take the readers on with all that you've been through.
Yes. Well, I just felt that if I didn't, I just wanted to share my experience, if you like, to give people permission to grieve. Because what I have found and encountered is that people avoided me. My grief was too much for them. Can't say I blame some of them. I think when my neighbour came over after Jasmine died and said, would you, if you feel like coming over for a cup of tea, then knock on our door. And I remember it was a Sunday and I wasn't very good on Sundays. And I went and knocked on their door and she opened it and she looked slightly horrified. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
And then her grandson came to the door and she said, oh, this isn't a good time, and closed the door. And I left feeling absolutely mortified. And it wasn't until 6 months later, after I'd walked down into the town and came back with some shopping. So I took the bus, and she was on the bus, and I sat next to her. And she asked me how I was. And I said, there's been a little bit of easing in the anguish. And then she told me that her own daughter had died, aged 4 years old. And it just clicked then immediately why it was that my grief would be triggering her own experience, and probably some grief that was still untapped and left in her body. So because it is a bodily experience, although the mind obviously plays out, the grief moves through the body. And this is what I really learned. And so I guess it was that really, that all things combined, I just felt we don't explore grief. We don't even talk about it. We don't share our feelings, very rarely. And almost it's like grief is, or feelings, if you express them, it's a weakness. So, and that's what I grew up with in my own family. So I was well equipped to become aware of that. So I just thought, no, we can do this differently. We can, because we're all in this together. We're all going to experience grief at some stage or other. And many, many people have untapped grief in their bodies. So I decided that I was going to put this book out, and just see where it wants to go and see what happens.
Well, I'm so glad you did, because it's beautiful. It really, really is. And it's interesting. I love the way you talk about grief, but then yes, feelings, because feelings, we are feeling beings, aren't we? And so often any feeling, if exaggerated, we're shut down, aren't we? You could be too happy, you could be too sad, you could be too anxious, you could be too angry. So in our society, we're perpetually being contained. So when you talk about grief sitting in the body, how does that appear? How does that work?
Well, anyone who's done any form of grieving will know that the body gets very heavy and you feel very tired. And it's because all the feelings are in the body, and they don't quite know what to do. They have no particular outlet unless we give them one. So when we meet a feeling which is softer and longer than an emotion can come like a furious wave, a tidal wave, and it washes over you, and then it goes like a wave, literally in the sea. It goes quite quickly, but the intensity of it is scary for people. And it's through the body that this wave of grief or feelings are wanting to be expressed. And over a period of years and years, I had repressed so much grief, so much. So if you like, Jasmine has unlocked me through her death. And it feels like a huge opening for me of my heart.
And that's, in all the trauma of losing her, that's a huge gift, isn't it? To have for many people in that level of grief, and pain, their hearts close, and the challenge is to keep them open, isn't it? So how would you suggest, I mean, do you have any recommendations to people who are grieving on how they can help remain heart-centered, keep their hearts open, to be able to help understand what's happening to them and letting the grief move through them? Because I think we definitely don't, like you say, we don't talk about grief really. We don't talk about feelings too much. And we certainly don't know what grief is. We don't know what's expected of us, do we?
No, we don't. And that's quite a loaded question you asked, but I'll answer
Sorry.
And if I've missed anything, you can come back to me. I mean, grief is a normal, healthy response to loss of any kind. It might be the loss of a lifetime's work for somebody whose business closes down. Um, it might be the death of a really good friend. It might, in my case, it was the death of my youngest daughter that kind of blew me open. And so because we don't see this as a normal, healthy response, because we tend to be very alone with our grief, and people describe it, and I know I do in the book, as a lonely experience. So the heart may not be open at this point, but it is through allowing the grief and meeting it that gradually the break of the heart starts to open. And I really think, I mean, I had support, certainly from my body work. I went nearly every week at one stage. But I think unless people have some support in place, it's a very challenging journey, partly because of the intensity and partly because they really wonder if they're losing the plot. And I understand why people feel like that. So you really need someone who can hold them figuratively, emotionally, energetically, to say, look, this is normal, you're doing all right. And then there's various things that you can show the client, the person who's in grief, so that they get a feeling that they can manage the waves when they come. And I might share with you, if I may, just a very simple one, which is putting the hand on your heart, one hand, it doesn't matter which, on your heart. And I still use this when I need comforting and my body needs reassurance. And just start breathing really slowly for a count of 6. And then out for a count of 6. And let's just do it once more. And slowly let it out. Tell me how you're feeling now after that very short address.
More grounded and peaceful,
yes.
Very peaceful.
Yes, even after those 2 slow in-breaths. And there's something about the hand on the heart as well that, it's comforting.
Yeah.
It's
nurturing,
really,
isn't it?
Nurturing, that's a really good word.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. Nurturing, I like that.
Yeah.
So when people begin to find that there are ways of handling this, and maybe some journaling, somebody feels like it, bearing in mind that it's unlikely that someone else is going to read it. So what they put down is private. It's their own story, if you like. And the thing about journaling is that you can actually plot your progress. You can see that waves are coming less often, that they're less intense. And you can actually look back over the weeks and months and go, wow, yeah, I remember that. And thank goodness I'm out of that now. And that's really comforting and reassuring for people. So journaling is a great thing to do. Plus the heart-centered hand on the heart and slowing down the breathing and reminding yourself that you're not potty, even though you might feel it at times.
Absolutely.
And getting some grief support is a really good idea.
And it's you talk about grief applying to all sorts of things, not just the death of a person or a pet, even. But and I when was it? Nearly 2 years ago now. I left my marriage and my business that I dearly loved, and was not prepared for the roller coaster ride that I've been on. But thankfully, I did have the presence of mind of having a beautiful friend who's involved with all this work, and she supported me through. And it's exactly as you say. It's that having the validation that what you're feeling is perfectly normal. It's not that you're doing a bad job and you're failing, and because it can feel like, as you say, you're being engulfed by a wave of grief, and so to have have support in place, I think is lovely. Because you said at the beginning, didn't you, that grief is a perfectly normal response to the loss of something. Now, I suppose in our society, there's such a because so many people don't know what grief feels like, how to deal with it, that it's, you know, it's felt like it's going to turn into depression or anxiety and go to the doctors and get medication. So when you talk about being prepared and having support there, it's from the space that actually we need to learn, don't we? We need to learn how to be normal, almost, because we've forgotten.
What do you mean by we need to learn how to be normal again?
In as much as, so once upon a time, before we became so repressed within our culture, and we had more intimate communities where death...
Oh, I see what you mean.
Where death was more central and part of everybody's life.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And we cared more about each other and one another.
Yes.
I've learned a lot about this from the indigenous people. And you'll remember in the book, I went to stay with the Shuar tribe in Ecuador.
Amazing.
And it was amazing, I can tell you. And what I learned is that not only is grief normal, but that they honor the person who is grieving and support the person who is grieving throughout the process, because they know that they see it as a sacred rite of passage, like dying and birth. And they know that there's going to be great wisdom coming at the end of it. Not that it ends suddenly, but that throughout the process, there's an opening up, there's a clearing out, and there's a sense of the mystical presence of love pouring in, which I had never experienced before. And I absolutely know without doubt that we all have that divine essence within us, all of us, and that if we allow the grief to move through us and to meet it in chunks, it won't all come at once, that there is a possibility of something quite amazing going to happen and take place.
And it's that
and
allowing.
I wonder, yes, allowing it and meeting it. And I just wonder for you whether anything like that has happened, has taken place.
Oh yes, it's still taking place. As you say, it's ongoing, isn't it? Ongoing. Ongoing.
Yes. Yeah, that's great that you know that.
Yes. Yeah. And how long ago was it now that your daughter Jasmine died?
Jasmine died 7 years ago.
7 years.
7 years. And you can't say how long the process is going to take, because everyone's different. There's no right timing, there's no wrong timing. But all I knew was that without a shadow of a doubt, I had to grieve. And so I stopped working. I didn't see clients. And I also had a sense that my work would be changing. Don't ask me why or how, but it was just an intuitive feeling that I needed to follow this through fully and not get busy again with work and all the usual things that we get busy with. So that's what I did. And it felt a sacred process that was taking place.
Because it was. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. And near the end of the book, I actually thank the grief enormously. You know, I mean, I'd give anything to have Jasmine back in my life. But what she has shown me through grieving and through the way she kind of showed me her presence was still around me was extraordinary. Of course, I had to write a book. Of course, I have to talk about grief. Of course, I have to work with clients and support them as best I can through what they're going through.
Because that's a remarkable thing, is that you've been through so much pain, yet you go on and you support and help others in theirs.
Yes. Well, you know, there isn't any grief that I can't hold now. Hold in the sense of I don't feel afraid of it. I can be with that person,
yes,
with no matter what it is that they've come with.
yes.
And yeah, yes.
So, how do you think we can help other people that are grieving?
Mm.
Because, as you said earlier, so often people are kind of ostracized, aren't they? Because everybody's so terrified of saying the wrong thing.
Yes, yes,
So,
absolutely.
what would you say to that?
Well, I would say to all of us that we are in this together.
Hmm.
Um, and if you can, if it doesn't scare you, sit with someone,
Hmm.
listen to them, let them talk, and just be there as if you have all the time in the world.
Hmm.
And there is nothing more consoling and comforting than knowing that this person isn't going to freak out or run away from you.
Hmm.
If you say, look, I'm not sure I want to get up in the morning, or I'm not sure I want to be here anymore.
Hmm.
It's that kind of level of holding
Hmm.
that is needed with very deep grief.
Hmm.
Um, how are you? A sort of flippant, how are you, is not really the answer, but maybe how are you feeling today?
Hmm.
Because that really does indicate that you are aware that every day is going to be different. Um, and then as time moves on with the person, and I had people, two friends of mine saying, "Have you had closure yet?" That was after a year
Wow.
of Jasmine dying, and I burst into tears.
Hmm.
I was so surprised at the question, and I just thought, what's closing?
Hmm.
What is it? I don't want to close my daughter out in any way. I'm moving through my grief,
Hmm.
but there's still sorrow there. There's still sadness, um, and so it's and I understand why it is, because people who haven't been through grief don't get it.
No. No.
So it's completely understandable. So the more conversations we have about grief, the more podcasts such as you're doing, the more books that are written, as long as they're not too heavy,
Mm.
because someone in grief cannot read anything that's too dense.
No.
Um, then the better it is, and then the more we will come out and meet someone who we know is grieving or mourning, without this awful fear. Will I get it wrong? Will I say the wrong thing? And actually, at the end of the day, just leave out words like closure and have you moved on. Just leave those out and just say, I'm so sorry. I don't know how you're feeling. I have not experienced this myself, but it just must be awful. I'm so sorry. And really, there's great beauty in that.
Absolutely. Because it's such a need for everybody to try and make everyone feel better. Make everything all right.
Yes.
And you can't.
Yes.
You can't with that, can you?
No, and nor should we try, because it's a process.
Yes.
That we go through in the body, and it's we will be changed by it. There is no question about it. So yeah.
What are your thoughts on anticipatory grief? Because this is something obviously that you experienced and had to live with. For some people I've spoken to over the years, they've said that can almost be the hardest part, because it's like this, you're waiting. You know it's coming. You don't quite know when. And then people talk about feeling relieved when the person is out of suffering, and then you've got guilt that comes in with that. And
yes, anticipatory guilt is agony, especially if the worst thing happens and the person you are concerned about actually does die, and especially if the order isn't right. They've gone before you, and you would rather go in their place, and so I don't know which is worse. I don't know. Then you have sudden deaths, and you get terrible shock from that as well. I mean, it's all pretty difficult, isn't it, at times? And But whatever we're feeling is absolutely okay. One thing I have noticed, which you've just touched on, which is great, is the guilt side. That yes, it can be a relief when the person does die. It can feel a relief, and then you go, oh, but I shouldn't be feeling this. You know, I should be this, that, or the other. So the guilt is coming from the mind. It's the mind that judges us. You know, you shouldn't be thinking like that. You shouldn't have said that. You could have done that. And so the guilt can drive you potty, really, much more than anything else. And I found that my guilt and shame, which I didn't realize I was sitting on, actually magnified, like everything does, which is marvelous because it then comes into full conscious awareness. And that's the first step towards meeting it and working with it and then doing something about it. So, yeah, it is an opportunity to clear whatever is lurking in the shadows, if you like.
And that's why so many people don't want to go there, isn't it? Because we all like to try and make life as good as possible, and I'm fine, and it does bite us on the bum eventually. So the metaphorical bum. So you touched on there actually, which was interesting, Patsy, about shame, guilt and shame. So talk to me a little bit more about shame.
Well, shame often accompanies guilt. They're two bedfellows, if you like, the guilt and shame. And guilt is a sense of you should have done something differently or said something differently. Shame comes in as a much darker shadow, which is that you are not worthy as a person, that you are really not worthy of being seen, that you have no worth. So your self-esteem is very low. And there are lots of people, lots and lots of us, who are walking around with a very low-grade sense of shame that actually, and no, not even low-grade. I mean, you know, I can spot it a mile away now. I'm so in tune with it, is that people just feel they have no worth. And there are lots of reasons for this. And it usually starts in childhood. And they do say we can even sense these things in the womb and pick up the traumas and all these factors from our mother. We're there for 9 months, you know, in tune with her. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So I have two brothers, two wonderful brothers. And I didn't mention this in the book, but when they were about 7 and 9, so I was 9 to 12, my parents had a portrait done of each of them by a friend of ours, and they were absolutely gorgeous. One sat on one side of the fireplace and the other sat on the other. And I just sat there like a lemon going, well, when am I going to have mine done? And it was never done. They never asked me if I would, you know, have my picture done. So I felt every time I walked into the sitting room, I felt that I wasn't good enough as a girl and that boys were more important. And actually there was a lot of that in my generation, you know, my parents. Boys must be sent away to school, or boys must do this because they've got to earn a living, and girls are going to get married and have babies, and all those beliefs, cultural beliefs that get handed down. So very early on, my shame gradually crept in. And then you don't know it's there until certain situations crop up, and you actually find that you don't really and truly, the bottom line is you don't believe you have any worth.
And that's a really interesting way of explaining it. I've never come across self-worth issues and things like that, but to put that in with shame, that they are kind of because anybody who's not ashamed of themselves has ultimate confidence and belief, don't they, I suppose?
Absolutely, yes. And if I had my time again, what I would do with my daughters, and I encourage anyone with young children is to tell them how marvelous they are, how special they are, and how they have tremendous gifts. And whatever they want to do with their lives, you will encourage them and support them because they are special beings who have chosen to come in at this time. So it's a wonderful gift. And teachers also have that role. Imagine if every child at school was told how special they are, was listened to, was encouraged and praised, and that'd be marvelous.
What a different world we'd live in.
Yes, exactly.
Have you seen that programme on BBC iPlayer? My mother pointed me to it. But I think the footballer's Ian Wright I don't know my football at all, but I think it's about a chap called Ian Wright who had a very abusive childhood. And he explores this. And he actually talks about his teacher at primary school and what an effect he had on him. And there's a beautiful bit where he's surprised back in, I think it's 2005. He doesn't know his teachers. He thought his teacher had died. And he comes in and he's falling at his feet, holding him round the waist, going, "You have no idea, what you did for me in my life." Oh. It's beautiful, beautiful. In Our Time, I think it's called, or something. Well worth watching on BBC iPlayers. It's a lovely...
Right.
Yes.
How lovely. Yes, that would be great viewing for all of us, I'm sure.
And today's meaning of life is from my gorgeous niece, Beatrice, who is an all-round gentle soul. Beatrice, what's the meaning of life to you?
Being with your family and friends.
I love you. So that's the end of part 1. Don't forget to join us next week for part 2. I would like to say a very big thank you for being brave enough to dare to listen to a podcast that talks about something we, as a nation, tend to prefer. Doesn't exist, doesn't apply to our lives. But no, it does. No one gets out of here alive. And being more aware and engaged helps us all to have a more positive experience when the time does come to either us or our family, friends and pets. If you'd like to subscribe, please visit www.hollylionhawk.com.